You walk towards each other, you keep walking, you pass each other, and you count to five, 1,000, 2, 1,000, etc. And when you get to five, you turn around. And if that same thing happens with the guy who just passed you and he turns around, bingo, you both know you're both gay. Hi, my name is Mike Balaban, and thank you for joining me for another episode of BAMMER Talks. Today, I'd like to discuss with you the whole concept of cruising, what it meant, how it worked, when it was popular, and why it's not really very much in practice today. My suspicion is if you are 50 or younger, you may not even have heard of cruising, and if you have, you haven't employed it. It's mostly those of us who came out and were active as gay men in the 60s, 70s, 80s, and even 90s who utilized it regularly. Cruising is the art of, through eye contact initially and then verbiage, connecting with somebody else who you don't initially know is gay, but you figure out that he is and vice versa, and you start chatting and may discover you're interested in each other and may go home together. Back in the 60s and 70s, being gay was essentially a crime until Stonewall in 1969. You could get arrested. You could get tossed in jail. You could lose your job. You could have your name printed in the paper if they arrested you for doing something illegal publicly, and that would lead to you losing your job, plus any shame that might come from your family. And if you were married and had a family and kids, it was disaster. So you didn't want to take those risks. Many people did because they're risk takers, they're thrill seekers. But the large part of gay men who were closeted did not. What you did do if you were, let's say, traveling to another city and you are seeking to meet another man, ideally for sex, and you aren't aware of whether or not there are any gay bars in that town. Eventually, there were guidebooks that were published to help you figure out when you travel somewhere, but in the beginning, that wasn't available. So what did you do? Well, you had two choices. You went out and used your instincts, your nose, to determine if maybe there was a gathering of men on a corner in front of a bar, and they were dressed in tight denim jeans and leather vests and with colored handkerchiefs popping out of their left or right pocket. That was usually a giveaway, a dead giveaway, that those were gay men either smoking outside or waiting for space in the bar to be allowed in, and you could go join them. But if you couldn't find one of those and you're hot to trot and you're in a strange location, what did you do? Well, there were outdoor sex places, but they were very risky, as I said, such as parks and public restrooms, etc. But there was also a somewhat less risky public way to try to nail down somebody who was gay and see if there was interest. And that's if you go to, let's say, the square in the center of a town and you see somebody cute sitting on a park bench, just, smoking or hanging out. You could walk over and say, "Excuse me, you got a light?" Because back in those days, everybody smoked or carried cigarettes, so you could act like you smoked. Or you might walk to them and say, "I'm sorry, do you have the time?" And those were clearly ploys. And if they were in on this game, they would recognize right away that you were just trying to meet them. And if there was some interest, it might go further, prompted by one or both of you. And then whatever happened, happened. But that was a way you could identify and maybe connect with another gay man in a place where you were a stranger. Now, the other way that is really not practiced today at all is walking down the sidewalk and seeing somebody who you're interested in and either approaching them from behind and passing them on the sidewalk, in which case You might go to a store window 30 feet further down and look in like you were really interested. And they would probably, if they were gay, recognize the tactic. And they might walk past you and go to the next window until eventually one of you stopped in front of the other and said hi. The other way was when the person was coming towards you and you were walking towards them and you're going to cross each other's path. You looked them in the eye, and if that person was straight, no doubt about it, odds are he would have averted his glance as quick as sticks, because there was a fear that you might mistake him for being gay, and no straight man wanted that. Today, that's not the case, of course. Straight guys might go to bed with you. Anyway, you would see the guy coming towards you. You'd look him in the eye, and if he were straight, would look away immediately. If he were gay, he'd look away after a second or two. But that pause, that pregnant pause, was a reaction of gay men appreciating someone glancing at them and kind of conveying, without necessarily meaning to, that they were in on the game. They were gay. Whether they were attracted to you or not was another question. And so now comes the dance part of it. So you walk towards each other, you keep walking, you pass each other, and you count to 5. 1, 1,000, 2, 1,000, etc. And when you get to 5, you turn around. And if that same thing happens with the guy who just passed you and he turns around, bingo, you both know you're both gay. So what happens then? There are really 3 possibilities. One is that the other person smiles at you and you smile at them and you kind of wave or laugh or wink, and then you turn around and go on your way. There's either no time for each of you at that moment, or there isn't interest on the part of one of you, but it's a quick connection and that's it. The second alternative is for one of you to walk over to the other or meet in the middle and to joke about it, meeting each other that way, and ask a little about each other, and maybe end up saying, I'm busy right now, or maybe we should get together sometime. Here's my phone number and address. There were no email addresses back then. And he would give you yours and his, and you give him yours, vice versa. And the result of that was you now have this information that one of you might or might not use in the near future, and something might come out of it. And the third and most enjoyable option was when both of you were attracted to each other. You were thrilled that the connection was made. You were not busy at that moment. And one of you said, hey, you want to come home with me now? Or vice versa. And you went back to his place or yours, and you had sex right then and there. And that happened more often than you would think, because we were a very adventurous population, much more than straights. And that was the way to do it. Unfortunately, that's no longer popular, not even known by most young gay men. What's happened, of course, is that the game we played, we were always able to detect others who were gay right in the midst of straights without them even realizing it. For example, I would go to a gathering of 200 or 300 people from my alumni association from college or my professional group that I was part of, and I'd walk down the stairs into this room, and in a fraction of, let's say, 2 seconds, I had scanned the room and I could tell you who were the 1 or 2 or 3 cute guys there. And then what I might do is walk over and walk near one of them in his plain view and give him a glance or a nod. And if he glanced or nodded back, then you might go off to the side and meet each other in the middle of this crowd and can exchange information and make plans to meet. So that was something we were able to do that straights weren't. Well, in 2000, the need for a secret language began to disappear, because not only were gay bars more acceptable and you wouldn't get arrested, etc. anymore, but also along came the internet, and with that, social media and meetup apps. And the ubiquity of meetup apps is such that every gay man coming up now is more likely to go there and more likely to meet someone there, as tough as it is, because it usually leads, if anything, to sex. When what you're looking to do is date, It's not as productive. So in any event, everyone uses them. Not only that, when you go to a bar, you're just as likely to see the guys in the bar with their phones in their hands, working over Grindr and looking to see who's 40 feet away and then texting them rather than catching their eye or walking over and saying hello. So it's taken all the fun out of it. It's made it formulaic, and yet it's all there is. And every once in a while, I'll have somebody answer my post about this topic on Instagram with the note, no, I still do it, or I try to. I even met somebody last week who I went home with. So it does happen. But we need to get younger people to put their phone down in the bar as well as on the street and look at each other and see what might come out of that. Cruising was a lot of fun. I wasn't that good at it because I was kind of uptight, but it even happened with me a number of times. I would just catch myself in an unusually good mood, and somebody would do that, pass by in the street, and we'd look at each other, and I'd break out in a smile. People who were more flirtatious did that instantaneously. I had to work at it. Anyway, thanks for listening in or watching to this episode about the art of cruising, which has unfortunately been sorely lost. I hope we can bring it back. Thank you, Mike Balaban, another episode of BAMMER Talks.